What's up my channel? It's your friendly neighborhood sassy blonde writer coming at you with some more writing advice. Today we're going to be talking about character-driven stories versus plot-driven stories. In order to really understand the difference between a character-driven story versus a plot-driven story, we briefly have to talk about the different types of conflict in a story. External conflict. Any conflict or any issue that arises between the main character and external forces, hence the name external conflict. Internal conflict refers to a character's internal struggle. It's the character versus character. It might struggle with an emotional problem, and that will prevent them from doing something in the story. The difference between a plot-driven story and a character-driven story is how the writer balances internal conflict and external. The difference basically exists on a spectrum. One side you have something like Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, which is very character-driven. Without Amir's character development, there is no book. On the other side of things, you have something like Game of Thrones, where there are tons of characters running around, and the focus is on the plot and chase to see who will get the throne. The characters are literally expendable in Game of Thrones. Shows like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, where the characters are really compelling and the plot is bananas, and you kind of watch for both reasons. This is not to say that one way of telling a story is better than the other, they're just different. Now, because there are character-driven stories and plot-driven stories, there are also character-driven writers and plot-driven writers. If you can figure out if you're a plot-driven or character-driven writer, then you can easily figure out what you need help with when you write. There is a test where you can figure out which one you are, which is why I know I'm a plot-driven writer, and I will link to that down below. Now, of course, I'm going to give you some writing tips after you figure out which one you are. Broadly speaking, writers who prefer action-driven stories focus on logical thinking, rational analysis, rely on the left side of their brain. They're more likely to change the characters to fit the plot of the story. And these writers approach writing as a linear function and see the story in parts, or chunks, or acts. Plot-driven writers like structure, and they usually pre-plot or create an outline before writing, although that's not always the case. Action-driven writers have little trouble expressing themselves in words. I'm an example of a plot-driven writer. On the other hand, writers who write character-driven stories tend to focus on aesthetics, feelings, creativity, and imagination. These writers have more access to their right side of the brain, which is the more creative and artsy part. Enjoy playing with beautiful language and creative imagery. Think Jane Austen. Jane Austen focuses on the aesthetics and the descriptions and the characters and all that fun stuff. The plot of a Jane Austen novel is not exactly action-driven. These writers are more intuitive and holistic than they're more subjective. They tend to be pantsers. They're more likely to change their plot to fit the characters. They see the story as a whole, and right-brain writers know what they mean, but they often have trouble finding the right word. So remember, I keep stressing, one is not better than the other, and both have their different strengths, which is something that we were just talking about. Not every story can be told the same way, which is fine. However, if you're a plot-driven writer versus a character-driven writer, or vice versa, there are things you can learn from each and pitfalls that you can watch out for to make sure you still have well-rounded characters in your story. If you're a plot-driven writer, you most likely need help with developing and conveying your character arc. Remember, your characters have real feelings. You can try using your own flaws, your own fears, and or your own secrets. We all have them. While you're writing, think about maybe you're really impatient, and maybe your main character is as well. Maybe your main character has a hysterical fear of small spaces and they're claustrophobic. Try using the things that you already experience while you write, and that'll help you develop your skills with conveying character emotions. Another tip is get all up in your feelings when you write. If you're writing a really emotional scene, what body language does the character have? Are they shaking? They have a lump in their throat? Another way you can do this is you can, because plot-driven writers tend to be more logical, and sometimes you're a little bit more visual, watch scene and come up with descriptions for how the actor is conveying emotion while you watch. There are different cues for each emotion that are very visual that help you get all up in your feelings and convey character development and feelings. Also, look for opportunities to include more patterns, metaphors, and analogies in your writing. Also, give the reader a window into your main character's head as they go throughout the plot. A lot is probably happening to them. What are they thinking? How are they feeling as this stuff is happening to them? Does this bring up any memories for them? Think about the Hunger Games. How much more compelling is it to read the Hunger Games while Katniss is having flashbacks to like going through the woods with Gale as a child? Are they thinking about their family or friends while all this stuff is happening? If it's an action or a fight scene, what is their motivation and where did they learn their skills? Are they remembering any advice that comes up? For example, Children of Blood and Bone, Amari, as she's fighting people, keeps thinking of something her father told her when she was a child. Go, strike Amari! And it comes up throughout the book, which just gives you this little personal detail that makes them feel more like they actually have a past. After plotting out the dramatic action, use a different color pen or a different color font. Plot out the emotional development of a character. Create logical conclusions and look for clues on how the dramatic action can cause a change in the character's emotional development. On the other hand, for you writers out there who are characters, here are some tips to strengthen your dramatic action plotline. Plot out the emotional development scenes. Yet another one to show as they relate to thematic significance. Another thing you can do is use your goals. What is the point of what your character is doing? And insert them into the context of the story to finish what, to organize what, to accomplish what. And you can also start with the climax of your story and work backwards using your intuition. Pay attention to coherence and meaning. Link dramatic action to the changes in your character emotional development. What is happening to the character that's making them feel this way? That's all I've got for you today. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe to this video. I post new videos 1 to 2 times a week, and of course, happy writing.